Chapter 11. And you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim, and guard his charge, even his laws, and his right rulings, and his commands, always. And you shall know today, for it is not your children who have not known and have not seen the discipline of Yahuwah your Elohim, his greatness, his strong hand, and his outstretched arm, and his signs and his works which he had done in the midst of Mitzrayim, to Pharaoh sovereign of Mitzrayim, and to all his land. And that which he had done to the army of Mitzrayim, to their horses and their chariots, when he made the waters of the sea of reeds overflow them, as they pursued you, and how Yahuwah has destroyed them to this day. And what he had done for you in the wilderness till you came to this place. And what he had done to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, son of Reuben, when the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up and their households, and their tents, and all their living creatures that were in their possession, in the midst of all Israel. For yours are the eyes that saw all the great work of Yahuwah which he did. And you shall guard every command which I command you today, so that you are strong and shall go in and shall possess the land which you are passing over to possess, and to prolong your days in the land which Yahuwah swore to give your fathers, to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land which you are going in to possess is not like the land of Mitzrayim from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and watered it by foot as a vegetable garden. But the land which you are passing over to possess is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks water from the rain of the heavens, a land which Yahuwah your Elohim looks after. The eyes of Yahuwah your Elohim are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the latter end of the year. And it shall be that if you diligently obey my commands, which I command you today, to love Yahuwah your Elohim, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your being, then I shall give you the rain for your land in its season, the early rain and the latter rain, and you shall gather in your grain, and your new wine, and your oil. And I shall give grass in your fields for your livestock, and you shall eat and be satisfied. Guard yourselves, lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other mighty ones, and bow down to them. Then the displeasure of Yahuwah shall burn against you, and he shall shut up the heavens, and there will be no rain, and the land not give its increase. And you shall perish quickly from the good land which Yahuwah is giving you. And you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your being, and shall bind them as a sign in your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children are increased on the soil which Yahuwah swore to your fathers to give them, as the days of the heavens on the earth. For if you diligently guard all these commands which I command you to do it, to love Yahuwah your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to cling to him, then Yahuwah shall drive out all these nations before you, and you shall dispossess greater and stronger nations than you. Every place on which the sole of your feet treads is yours, from the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even to the western sea is your border. No man shall stand against you. Yahuwah your Elohim shall put the dread of you and the fear of you upon all the land where you tread, as he has spoken to you. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, when you obey the commands of Yahuwah your Elohim which I command you today, and the curse, if you do not obey the commands of Yahuwah your Elohim, but turn aside from the way which I command you today, to go after other mighty ones which you have not known. And it shall be, when Yahuwah your Elohim has brought you into the land which you go to possess, that you shall put the blessing on Mount Gerizim, and the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not beyond the Jordan, towards the setting sun, in the land of the Canaanites, who dwell in the desert plain opposite Gilgal, beside the terebinth trees of Morah? For you are passing over the Jordan to go in to possess the land which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you, and you shall possess it and dwell in it, and shall guard to do all the laws and right rulings which I am setting before you today. Chapter 12. These are the laws and right rulings which you guard to do in the land which Yahuwah Elohim of your fathers is giving you to possess, all the days that you live on the soil. Completely destroy all the places where the nations you are dispossessing serve their mighty ones, on the high mountains and on the hills and under every tree. You shall break down their slaughter places, and smash their pillars, and burn their asherim with fire. And you shall cut down the carved images of their mighty ones, and shall destroy their name out of that place. Do not do so to Yahuwah your Elohim, but seek the place which Yahuwah your Elohim chooses, out of all your tribes, to put his name there, for his dwelling place, and there you shall enter. And there you shall take your ascending offerings, and your slaughterings, and your tithes, and the contributions of your hand, and your vowed offerings, and your voluntary offerings, and the firstlings of your herd and of your flock. And there you shall eat before Yahuwah your Elohim, and shall rejoice in all that you put your hand to, you and your households, in which Yahuwah your Elohim has blessed you. Do not do as we are doing here today, each one doing whatever is right in his own eyes, because you have not yet entered the rest and the inheritance which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you. But you shall pass over the Jordan, and shall dwell in the land which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you to inherit. And he shall give you rest from all your enemies round about, and you shall dwell in safety. And it shall be that unto the places which Yahuwah your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell there you are to bring all that I command you, your sending offerings and your slaughters, and your tithes and your contributions of your hand, and all the choice offerings which you vow to Yahuwah. And you shall rejoice before Yahuwah your Elohim, you and your sons and your daughters, and your male servants and your female servants, and the Levite who is within your gates, since he has no portion nor inheritance with you. Guard yourself that you do not offer your ascending offerings in every place that you see, except in the place which Yahuwah chooses, in one of your tribes, where you are to offer your ascending offerings, and there you are to do all that I command you. Only whatever your being desires, you shall slaughter and eat, according to the blessing of Yahuwah your Elohim, which he has given you, within all your gates. The unclean and the clean do eat of it, of the gazelle and the deer alike. Only the blood you do not eat, pour it on the earth like water. You are not allowed to eat within your gates the tithe of your grain, or of your new wine, or of your oil, or of the firstlings of your herd or your flock, or of any of your offerings which you vow, or of your voluntary offerings, or of the contribution of your hand. But eat them before Yahuwah your Elohim in the place which Yahuwah your Elohim chooses, you and your son and your daughter, and your male servant and your female servant, and the Levite who is within your gates. And you shall rejoice before Yahuwah your Elohim in all that you put your hands to. Guard yourself that you do not forsake the Levite as long as you live in your land. When Yahuwah your Elohim enlarges your border as he promised you, and you say, let me eat meat, because you long to eat meat, you eat as much meat as your being desires. When the place where Yahuwah your Elohim chooses to put his name is too far from you, then you shall slaughter from your herd and from your flock which Yahuwah has given you, as I have commanded you. And you shall eat within your gates as much as your being desires. Only, as the gazelle and the deer are eaten, so you are to eat of it. The unclean and the clean alike eat of it. Only be strong not to eat the blood, for the blood is the life. Do not eat the life with the meat. Do not eat it, you pour it on the earth like water. Do not eat it, that it might be well with you and your children after you, when you do what is right in the eyes of Yahuwah. Only the set-apart gifts which you have and your vowed offerings you are to take up and go to the place which Yahuwah chooses. And you shall make your ascending offerings, the meat and the blood, on the slaughter place of Yahuwah your Elohim. And the blood of your slaughterings is poured out on the slaughter place of Yahuwah your Elohim, and you eat the meat. Guard and obey all these words which I command you, that it might be well with you and your children after you forever, when you do what is good and right in the eyes of Yahuwah your Elohim. When Yahuwah your Elohim does cut off from before you the nations which you go to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, guard yourself that you are not ensnared to follow them, after they are destroyed from before you, and that you do not inquire about their mighty ones, saying, how did these nations serve their mighty ones? And let me do so too. Do not do so to Yahuwah your Elohim, for every abomination which Yahuwah hates they have done to their mighty ones, for they even burn their sons and daughters in the fire to their mighty ones. All the words I am commanding you, guard to do it. Do not add to it nor take away from it. Chapter 13. When there arises among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he shall give you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or wonder shall come true, of which he has spoken to you, saying, let us go after other mighty ones, which you have not known, and serve them. Do not listen to the words of the prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yahuwah your Elohim is trying you, to know whether you love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being. Walk after Yahuwah your Elohim, and fear him, and guard his commands, and obey his voice, and serve him and cling to him. And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams is put to death, because he has spoken apostasy against Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim and ransomed you from the house of bondage, to make you stay away from the way in which Yahuwah your Elohim commanded you to walk. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. When your brother, the son of your mother, or the son of your daughter, or the wife of your bosom, or your friend who is your own being, entices you secretly, saying, Let us go and serve other mighty ones, which you have not known, neither you nor your fathers, the mighty ones of the people which are all around you, near to you or far off from you, from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth. Do not agree with him or listen to him, nor shall your eye pardon him, nor spare him or conceal him. But you shall certainly kill him. Your hand is first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. And you shall stone him with stones until he dies, because he sought to entice you away from Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim from the house of bondage. And let all Israel hear and fear, and not again do any such evil matter as this in your midst. When you hear someone in one of your cities, which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you to dwell in, saying, Some men, sons of Belial, have gone out of your midst and led the inhabitants of their city astray, saying, Let us go and serve other mighty ones whom you have not known, then you shall inquire, search out, and ask diligently, and see if the matter is true, and establish that this abomination was done in your midst. You shall certainly strike the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, putting it under the ban, and all that is in it, and its livestock with the edge of the sword, and gather all its plunder into the middle of the street, and completely burn with fire the city and all its plunder before Yahuwah your Elohim. And it shall be a heap forever, never to be built again. And none of that which is put under the ban is to cling to your hand, so that Yahuwah turns from the fierceness of his displeasure, and show you compassion, love you and increase you, as he swore to your fathers. When you obey the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, to guard all his commands which I command you today, to do what is right in the eyes of Yahuwah your Elohim. Chapter 14. You are the children of Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not cut yourselves, nor shave the front of your head for the dead. For you are a set-apart people to Yahuwah your Elohim, and Yahuwah has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession above all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. Do not eat whatever is abominable. These are the living creatures which you do eat: ox, sheep, and goat, and deer, and gazelle, and roebuck, and wild goat, and mountain goat, and antelope, and mountain sheep, and every beast that has a split hoof divided in two, chewing the cud among the beasts, you do eat. But of those chewing the cud, or those having a split hoof completely divided, you do not eat. Such as these: the camel, and the hare, and the rabbit, for they chew the cud, but do not have a split hoof. They are unclean for you. And the pig is unclean for you, because it has a split hoof, but does not chew the cud. You do not eat their flesh, or touch their dead carcasses. These you do not eat of all that are in the waters. These you do eat of all that are in the waters. All that have fins and scales you do eat. And whatever does not have fins and scales you do not eat. It is unclean for you. Any clean bird you do eat. But these you do not eat: the eagle, and the vulture, and the black vulture, and the red kite, and the falcon, and the buzzard after their kinds, and every raven after its kind, and the ostrich, and the nighthawk, and the seagull, and the hawk after their kinds, and the little owl, and the great owl, and the white owl, and the pelican, and the carrion vulture, and the fisher owl, and the stork, and the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat. And every creeping insect that flies is unclean for you. They are not eaten. Any clean bird you do eat. Do not eat whatever dies of itself. Give it to the stranger who is within your gates to eat it, or sell it to a foreigner, for you are a set-apart people to Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. You shall tithe without fail all the yield of your grain that the field brings forth year by year. You shall eat before Yahuwah your Elohim in the place where he chooses to make his name dwell, the tithe of your grain, and your new wine, and your oil, and of the firstlings of your herds and your sheep, so that you learn to fear Yahuwah your Elohim always. But when the way is too long for you, so that you are not able to bring the tithe, or when the place where Yahuwah your Elohim chooses to put his name is too far from you, when Yahuwah your Elohim is blessing you, then you shall give it in silver, and shall take the silver in your hand, and go to the place which Yahuwah your Elohim chooses. And you shall use the silver for whatever your being desires, for cattle or sheep, for wine or strong drink, for whatever your being desires. And you shall eat there before Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall rejoice, you and your household. And do not forsake the Levite who is within your gates, for he has no part nor inheritance with you. At the end of every third year you bring out all the tithe of your increase of that year, and store it up within your gates. And the Levite, because he has no portion nor inheritance with you, and the sojourner, and the fatherless, and the widow who are within your gates, shall come and eat and be satisfied, so that Yahuwah your Elohim does bless you in all the work of your hand which you do. Chapter 15. At the end of every 7 years you make a release of debts. And this is the word of the release. Every creditor is to release what he has loaned to his neighbor. He does not require it of his neighbor or his brother, because it is called the release of Yahuwah. Of a foreigner you do require it, but your hand is to release whatever is owed by your brother. Only there should be no poor among you. For Yahuwah does greatly bless you in the land which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you to possess as an inheritance. Only if you diligently obey the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim to guard to do all these commands which I command you today. For Yahuwah your Elohim shall bless you as he promised you, and you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow, and you shall rule over many nations, but they do not rule over you. When there is a poor man with you, one of your brothers, within any of the gates in your land which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you, do not harden your heart, nor shut your hand from your poor brother. For you shall certainly open your hand to him, and certainly lend him enough for his need, whatever he needs. Be on guard, lest there be a thought of Belial in your heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of release, is near, and your eye is evil against your poor brother, and you give him not. And he shall cry out to Yahuwah against you, and it shall be a sin in you. You shall certainly give to him, and your heart should not be grieved when you give to him, because for this reason Yahuwah your Elohim does bless you in all your works, and in all to which you put your hand. Because the poor one does not cease from the land. Therefore I am commanding you, saying, you shall certainly open your hand to your brother, to your poor, and to your needy one in your land. When your brother is sold to you, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, and shall serve you 6 years, then let him go free from you in the 7th year. And when you send him away free from you, let him not go away empty-handed. You shall richly supply him from your flock, and from your threshing floor, and from your winepress, with that which Yahuwah has blessed you with, give to him. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim, and Yahuwah your Elohim ransomed you. Therefore I am commanding you this word today. And it shall be, when he says to you, I do not go away from you, because he loves you and your house, because it is good for him with you, then you shall take an awl, and thrust it through his ear to the door, and he shall be your servant forever. Do the same to your female servant. Let it not be hard in your eyes when you send him away free from you, for he has been worth a double hired servant in serving you 6 years. And Yahuwah your Elohim shall bless you in all that you do. Set apart to Yahuwah your Elohim all the firstborn males that come from your herd and your flock. Do not work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. You and your household are to eat it before Yahuwah your Elohim year by year in the place which Yahuwah chooses. But when there is any defect in it, lame or blind, or has any evil defect, do not slaughter it to Yahuwah your Elohim. Eat it within your gates, the unclean and the clean alike, as the gazelle and as the deer. Only do not eat its blood, pour it out on the ground like water.